You're listening to episode 2. If you haven't listened to episode 1, I'd suggest you go back and do that so that it makes a bit more sense as we move forward. Detective Tim Turnbull worked hundreds of cases throughout his career. He's retired now, and it's understandable that his memory on cases that occurred more than 25 years ago isn't crystal clear. So, when I reached out to the retired detective to ask him a few questions for the story, he admitted that the case happened a long time ago, and he didn't remember every detail related to the case. Thankfully, we had the police file, which showed us what he documented at the time of the investigation, as it was happening. But there was one question I had for him, something I really wanted to know.
Yeah, and I don't have anything in front of me. I don't remember it well enough, and I haven't read that report in 20 years or more.
Right. So yeah, I guess a lot of the questions that I have for you are pretty specific. But yeah, my main thing would just be understanding from the start that the theory that she was in the water was the prevailing theory, so there wasn't necessarily an investigation into a murder or abduction. Would that be accurate?
I would say that's the prevailing thought. Yeah.
In this episode, we'll look at more examples, more areas the investigation overlooked. We'll examine Sergeant William Connor's new investigation, which he launched in 2004, and his hunt through phone records, insurance records, and the hard questions he had for Alan Jacobson. You're listening to The Vault, a Forum Communications podcast covering true crime and general intrigue in the Upper Midwest. I'm Trisha Taurinskas. My original reporting on this story can be found at inforum.com. Just look for the Vault section. That's also where you can find images related to this story, directly from the police file. Connor was a patrolman for the Bismarck Police Department on the morning Sandra Jacobson's car was discovered. So when he received the call in 2004 from the Missing and Exploited Children Center about the case, he was taken back to that day, and he got curious.
This case, I was a patrolman at the time, and I remember the case distinctly when I was on patrol. I was off that night, but I would have worked the next night, that she went missing. Mm-hmm. And I remember we had this to be on the lookout for her and all that. The car was located near the Pioneer Park. I guess it was Bicentennial Park now. Mm-hmm. And, and I searched. The family came down there and asked. They thought they had seen some tracks. This family was huge and they were very close. Yeah. Cousins and all that kind of stuff. And they were really, I guess as you can imagine, upset.
Right.
And so they wanted me to search that. I had a canine at the time. And so I was down along that river for, several hours that night. And it was horrible cold. Wow. I can remember that. Yeah, it was way below zero. The wind was howling. The river was already freezing up on November 17th. It was already frozen. And the night she went missing, there was big chunks of ice floating down the river.
He knew advancements in DNA technology had come a long way since 1996, so he initially set out to update the case through the collection of DNA from Sandra and John's family members. Yet as he sorted through the old police file, he couldn't ignore the questions that came up. The Missing and Exploited Children Center representative told Connor they attempted to reach Alan several times to obtain pictures of Sandra and John for the missing poster the organization was putting together. They had also requested his DNA for age-enhanced photos of his son, John. The organization turned to Connor to help them out. Connor reached out to Sandra's family members, who were more than willing to provide pictures and DNA samples, simple mouth swabs, to aid in the investigation. In April 2005, Connor finally sat down with Alan at the police station with a long list of questions. Among them were a few related to his cooperation with the Missing and Exploited Children Center. When Connor pressed Alan about the topic, Alan told him he had sent the photos in. That caught Connor off guard. Here's what Connor wrote in the report. He said he had mailed them pictures of Sandy and John in the beginning, and since he has seen that they did an age-enhanced poster of John. I told him that I had sent the pictures of John and Sandy that they created the posters with. Alan did admit that he received the DNA kit, and while he understood his DNA could be used in efforts to find his son, he wasn't interested in returning a sample. Alan told Connor that he and Sandra were working on getting back together when she went missing. He said they even went so far as to go to couples counseling, which they sought through the Employee Assistance Program included in Sandra's benefit package. Alan said he was the only one who showed up to the appointment. Sandra just didn't go. Connor set out to verify that claim. She had told people in her life that they were just days away from a divorce. So, if true, this could provide new information as to the nature of their relationship. After locking down a subpoena, Connor obtained documents from the Employee Assistance Program, which did not include a record of Alan or Sandra attending a couples counseling appointment. And that was a red flag for Connor. There was another question Connor had for Alan. When reading through the original report, he noted Alan told Turnbull in 1996 that Sandra had off-the-wall conspiracy theories that he was having affairs. He asked Alan if he had been involved in extramarital relationships during their marriage. This time, Alan had a different answer. This is what Connor wrote in the follow-up report. Quote, he admitted to one affair earlier when they first split up, but they reconciled in early 1996. Alan would not admit to any other affairs when I mentioned that Sandy had told others of his affairs, and that was why she moved out. End quote. In the week before Sandra and John disappeared, those close to her said there were a lot of late-night calls between her and Alan. The calls, they said, were so frequent that they caused her to go without sleep. Often, the heated conversations left Sandra in tears. Access to Sandra's landline phone records would have helped Connor confirm this information and would shed light on who was doing the calling. Yet, as Connor discovered, time wasn't on his side. While the original report contained phone records for Sandra Jacobson's landline phone, they were only for October of 1996. That didn't help Connor, who was after November records from the week before she went missing. He attempted to get those phone records from November, but they were no longer available. That wasn't the only time he hit that roadblock. He also attempted to obtain phone records from 1996 for Alan's cell phone through Verizon Wireless, but he was told that records only went back to 2001. It was the same case for records related to Alan's landline phone. Quest subpoena compliance only kept local calls on the log for 3 years. As Connor scoured the original police report, he came across phone records from Sandra's car phone. In 1996, Turnbull asked Alan to fetch them from her phone company. It was a move that wasn't out of step for the 1996 investigation. Turnbull turned to Alan for a lot back then. While reviewing the logs, Connor noticed something peculiar. In the hours before her disappearance, Sandra had called the same number twice. The number belonged to Bismarck United Life Insurance Company. The phone log clocked the calls at around 10 seconds each. That's 10 seconds after someone answered the phone. Back in 96, when they were going through the phone records together, Alan told Turnbull that Sandra probably misdialed. After all, the number was similar to the one belonging to the Bismarck Police Department. Turnbull didn't question Alan's explanation. and he didn't mention anything in the report about calling the insurance company. That was a detail Connor couldn't let go unexamined. Bismarck United Life Insurance Company had been bought out by ING Reliostar by the time Connor reached out to them, but they did still hold information related to policies prior to the takeover. A representative from the company told Connor that Sandra did have a policy, a term policy that was taken out in 1991. It lapsed in 1995. Roughly 8 years after her disappearance, Connor attempted to track down any information related to additional life insurance policies on Sandra. That's a lot like finding a needle in a haystack. One single database for insurance policies didn't exist. There was one avenue Connor could go down, though. Connor spoke with Bob Evans, the Director of Human Services at the Motor Vehicle Department where Sandra worked. This is what Connor wrote in his follow-up report after interviewing Bob Evans. He said he thought it was a couple of days after her disappearance that he, meaning Alan, came in and was rather aggressive about her benefits. In Connor's quest, he did find one life insurance policy, a $30,000 policy that had Alan listed as the beneficiary. We should note, Alan openly admitted to receiving the payout 5 years after her disappearance. He said it was used to cover administrative costs and bills. That was a reasonable response for Connor. Yet there was one aspect of this case that still didn't sit well with him, and it had to do with claims by Sandra's family members that Alan had taken a number of items from her home, a trailer in Center, North Dakota, just days after she went missing. To be clear, law enforcement never went through Sandra's trailer. Not before Alan went through it, and not after. Connor had been told by those close to Sandra that she diligently kept a diary. If there was anything that could give Connor a glimpse into her mind and what was happening between her and Alan, it would be in that diary. It could tell him about her mental state, her life in general. And if that diary existed, Alan would have known about it. If he hadn't been aware of it from the start, he would have found it eventually when he sold the trailer after Sandra went missing.
That's where I would like to have had that journal, because that would have been things she wrote down, and if Alan and her were talking about the divorce, she would have wrote it down. So I would have had some fuel at least, or some things to work off of. Right. So yeah, but that doesn't exist, or at least Alan said he never knew about it. And then of course it's gone out of the trailer. The trailer's gone. It's sold.
Before we wrap up, I do want to say, I think it is really important that Alan Jacobson has an opportunity to speak on this story, which is why I have attempted through various avenues to get a hold of him. And so far, I haven't been successful. So, if you're listening, reach out. I'd love to talk. In episode 3, we'll learn more about what Connor discovers as he continues his investigation, including details regarding the final hours before Sandra and John went missing. If you know anything about this story, anything at all, please feel free to reach out. I would love to hear from you. I can be found at an email address that is rather long. It is Taurinskas, TAURINSKAS @forumcom.com. That's forum, FORUMCOMM.com. Unlock more cold cases and crimes from the past at inforum.news/try. Get your first 3 months of unlimited access to our entire news network for only 99 cents a month. Take advantage of this deal at inforum.news/try. Forum Communications is proud to be part of the Trust Project. Learn more at thetrustproject.com. www.northdakotapolice.org.